morning, friends. This class would be a continuation of yesterday's climate change class. Yesterday, we had done some fundamentals on what greenhouse effect is, which are the important greenhouse gases. Then we were looking at various reports. We started with some reports of World Meteorological Organization, state of global climate and वो सारी चीजें. Then we went into 3 reports by UNEP, 1 report by Food and Agricultural Organization. Then we, I think, also discussed about the climate risk index. And there were some IPCC, 3 IPCC reports as well. Okay, today in continuation of that, we'll be starting with Global Climate Risk Index. There are 2-3 more reports pending. Once we're done with those reports, we'll jump onto the impact of climate change. And more or less, we all understand what the impacts of climate change are. What we're trying to do here is, through those listing of impacts of climate change, we're also trying to cover some current affairs. कि current events में क्या-क्या discuss हुआ है related to impacts of climate change. Okay. So, first is Global Climate Risk Index. What is this Global Climate Risk Index? Again, the name should help you get the content of the report. The index is a ranking of countries which are at high risk because of climate change. Okay. So, Global Climate Risk Index is basically a ranking of countries which are at high risk, or ranking of countries as per their risk in terms of how negatively they can be impacted by climate change. So, first thing was the title, what this report would be talking about. Second is who publishes this report. So this report is published by a environmental think tank called German Watch. So abhi January 2021 में this report was published by this body. Now, the 16th edition of this report, the report that was published in 2021, has the data available till 2019. And for this period, it says that in 2019, the most affected countries by climate change were Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Bahamas. Why are they saying this? They're saying this based on the fatalities because of climate change related events, based on the fatalities per 1 lakh inhabitants, absolute losses in millions, losses per unit in GDP, and Human Development Index 2020 ranking. So, we do not have to remember this key on which factor they are saying it, but we should clearly know that this index is ranking countries based on their this thing. It's ranking countries based on their how risky, how difficult it is to live in that country, or how difficult is climate change making living in that country. The most affected countries are this. When we look at the period 2000 to 2019, this was only for 2019 year. When we look at the period of 2000 to 2019, here the most affected countries overall are Puerto Rico, Myanmar, and Haiti. So do not have to remember these numbers, but it's just to help you out to understand that what this risk index is trying to do. Now, there are some other key things that the this risk index talks about. It says that climate change has escalated so much that now the signs of it cannot be ignored. Now, people who are saying that there is no climate change are really idiots. They're not using the word idiots, but they're saying that we cannot keep ignoring it. Second, extreme weather events are hitting poorest countries the most. That we saw in this ranking. You would see that advanced countries are not here. It is the poorest countries which are suffering the most. India is also 7th in the global climate risk index. So India is also a country which is highly vulnerable to climate risks, and therefore we need to take initiatives related to this fighting climate change. So Global Climate Risk Index released by German Watch. Countries जो top 3 में है not important. India is at 7th rank. That is These 2-3 things you should know, and always look at the name of the index. That will help you understand, remember what this report would be about. There's another report, World Risk Index. World Risk Index. It's also doing something similar. What does it do? It says that extreme natural events say which are the countries which needs greatest strengthening measures. Basically, because of climate change, extreme natural events would occur. So countries need to adapt. So which are the countries which needs highest adaptation? That is, which are the countries which are at highest risk in coming future. The previous report by German Watch was which were the countries which are most affected right now and in the previous years. It is saying which are the countries which need to adapt the most, which are going to be most at risk in coming future. Right, and as per this report, Qatar is at lowest risk, and I think यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं है? I had added a country. Just give me a second. I have added a country which is at highest risk. That's an island country. I'll add it here. I don't know why it's not there in the notes. Just give me 1 second, guys. Vanuatu. Vanuatu is the country which is at highest risk. It's a country in Pacific Ocean. ऑस्ट्रेलिया न्यूजीलैंड के थोड़ा उधर जाके एक आइलैंड कंट्री आएगा. दिस इज द कंट्री विच इज एट हाईएस्ट रिस्क. यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड अ स्मॉल आइलैंड कंट्री, climate change, it will just be lost completely. Qatar is at lowest risk from climate change. India is also poorly prepared to deal with climate reality, due to which it was more vulnerable to extreme natural disasters. But in overall risk, like India mein there would be problems because of climate change, but in terms of overall risk, we are ranked 89th. Among the South Asian countries, we are fourth most risk. Highest risk is there in Bangladesh. You can also understand why that would be the case. Bangladesh has a big coast, and then there are many large rivers. Is pe Bangladesh dependent hai. With sea level rise, salination of rivers, those floods and all could create a lot of problems for Bangladesh. So Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan are countries which are more at risk in South Asia than India. India, being a large country, ensures that climate change would not be like completely annihilating India. Sea level rise hoga, fir bhi there would be places where we would be able to survive and all. Okay, so this was report related to future. Which countries need to adapt the most, which countries are at highest risk. This is the World Risk Index. Now, who publishes it? Climate Risk Index was published by German Watch, a NGO, Germany-based NGO. But this is published by United Nations University Institute for Environmental and Human Security. UN University का एक Institute for Environment and Human Security है. This report is published by that, along with Budnis Health. This is an organization, international organization, in cooperation with some university in Germany, University of Stuttgart in Germany. These are the bodies. Important is, you remember, United Nations University Institute for Environment and Human Security is publishing this report here. India is ranked 89th. So please, risk related, we have covered two reports. One, Climate Risk Index, where India is ranked 7th, because India faces a lot of losses because of climate change. Other is this report. It is talking about which are the countries which needs most adaptation because of climate change, which are most at risk in future because of climate change. And here, country which is least at risk is Qatar. Country which is most at risk is this island country, Vanuatu, jo bhi iska naam. Okay, now our future on Earth 2020. तो इसका 2020 फर्स्ट वर्जन नहीं आया था, This report is published by an international sustainability organization called Future Earth. Now, our future on Earth is also like talking about the same thing. How sustainable our development? What are the concerns? What are the issues that we are facing? So the report is prepared with the aim, focus. हम climate change में पढ़ रहे हैं. With the aim and focus of fighting climate change, making people aware that climate change is creating so many problems for us. The aim is reduce carbon footprint and halt global warming below 2 degrees Celsius by 2050. Now, this report was prepared by surveying 222 leading scientists from more than 50 countries, and it has identified certain problems that we need to take care. Biggest risk globally that humankind faces, that Earth faces. One is failure of climate change mitigation. The efforts that we are taking to mitigate climate change, to fight climate change, the efforts that we are taking to adapt to climate change, if those fail, then the global community, humanity would be highly at risk. Then extreme weather events, major biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, food crisis and water crisis are some things that may make us worry, that may make us suffer. Then they say that this report is saying that these problems are not isolated problems, they are interrelated, and one of them will intensify other and so on. ओके बस इतना याद रखना है और ज्यादा कुछ नहीं. नाउ ग्लोबल कार्बन प्रोजेक्ट, वी हैव ऑलरेडी कवर्ड 2 रिपोर्ट्स ऑफ ग्लोबल कार्बन प्रोजेक्ट. हमने 2 बजट्स करे थे, मीथेन बजट एंड नाइट्रस ऑक्साइड बजट. बोथ ऑफ दोज वर प्रिपेयर्ड बाय ग्लोबल कार्बन प्रोजेक्ट. तो व्हाट इज ग्लोबल कार्बन प्रोजेक्ट? इट्स एन इंटरनेशनल रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट जिसका एम है ऑफ फ्यूचर अर्थ. फ्यूचर अर्थ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दैट वी जस्ट टॉक अबाउट, our future on earth करके जिसका रिपोर्ट था, right? It is the same organization which has this project, global carbon project, where the core idea is that वर्ल्ड में कितना CO2 प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है, उसको एनालाइज करो, स्टडी करो and make it available to people to take right policy decisions. Now, it's not only about CO2, because CO2 is not the only greenhouse gas. Methane is a greenhouse gas. So you would see that methane budget they released. Nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas. You would see that nitrous oxide budget they had released. So basically, they are also working towards fighting climate change by studies, by research. So this is what this organization, this body does. Then these were some international reports. The reports that we have studied so far were some international reports. There were some national reports, reports at India level produced by organizations in India. Let us look at those reports as well. First is Assessment of Climate Change over Indian Region, which was published in March 2021 by Ministry of Earth Science. Assessment of Climate Change over Indian Region. Look at the name, Assessment of Climate Change over Indian Region. What would this report be generally about? India के region में climate change का क्या condition है? How much temperature rise has taken place? How much of temperature rise in oceans? India region की बात कर रहे हैं, तो how much of temperature rise in oceans may have taken place because of climate change? What are the impacts that we are facing? These are certain things that this report should be talking about. These are the things that we have here. As per this report, you would see that between 1901 and 2018, the surface air temperature in India on an average has increased by 0.7 degrees Celsius. This has also led to increase in moisture in the atmosphere. We know, I was already telling you that when there is higher temperature, air can sustain more moisture. When the temperature is low, air cannot sustain as much moisture. So यहाँ पे they are saying that temperature has gone up and accordingly moisture has also gone up. And we already know that water vapors are the most important greenhouse gas, which keeps the earth warm, which traps a lot of heat. Then sea surface temperature in the tropical Indian Ocean region has also gone up by 1 degree Celsius. Air temperature has gone up by 0.7 degrees Celsius, sea temperature has gone up by 1 degree Celsius, and they're saying all this rise has mostly been because of greenhouse So this, along with, there are some other things that the report says that vulnerability has gone up, extreme weather events have gone up, cyclones, the intensity of cyclones, those have also gone up. These are certain things that this report talk about. So assessment of climate change over India, a report by Ministry of Earth Science was published in March 2021. There's another report by IMD, Statement on Climate of India during 2020. This report is also sometimes called India's State of Climate Report. India's State of Climate Report. India में climate का क्या state? And again, if you read the title carefully, you'll be able to see what is there in the report. So first, it is published by Indian Meteorological Department. उसका भी एक section है Climate Research and Service Unit of that, of the Indian Meteorological Department. What is it saying? It's saying that year 2020 was the 8th warmest year in the recorded history. Like India ने जब से data record करना शुरू किया है, year 2020 was the 8th warmest year in spite of the La Nina effect, which cools down that year. The temperature here was higher by 0.29 degrees Celsius above normal. The hottest year so far has been 2016, where temperature was higher by 0.71 degree Celsius. Moreover, they say that in 2020, the rainfall was also above normal. Monsoon was also above normal. 109% of above normal monsoon rainfall had taken place last year. Okay, this year also I guess monsoon would be above normal. पिछले साल तो मैं बारिश में एक बार भी नहीं भीगा, आज भीग गया, ऐसा हुआ. ठीक है, तो this was another by for India by an Indian organization. The reports are done. एक update booklet आएगा somewhere in September, where we may talk about some more reports, but reports are more or less done. जब मैं international bodies पढ़ा रहा था, there were students asking, sir, when are we going to do environment related reports? These are all environment related reports. You do not need to do any other reports. In international bodies we had covered all the international bodies related report कि WEF का क्या है, वो सारी चीजें. These are all environment related report. अच्छा, समरीन क्लास में आई है. समरीन ने कुछ दिन पहले मुझे फोन किया था, मैं उठा नहीं पाया था, याद है मुझे. तो क्लास में आके दिखा रही हैं कि सर आप मेरा फोन नहीं उठा रहे हो. बेटा करता हूँ मैं आपसे कभी, आज बात करता हूँ. Impact of climate change. When we're talking about impact of climate change, we already know that temperature rise is one key thing. And in two reports by World Meteorological Organization, we have already seen that temperature rise has been there. 2020 is the decade. 2010 to 2020 is the hottest decade. 6 years of 2015 to 2020 has been the hottest 6 years. 10 years 11 to 20 वाला भी वो hottest रहा है. तो it's all been hottest. Then Antarctica में temperature for the first time crossed 20 degrees Celsius in this was in news in February 2020. So all these things are clearly telling us that temperature is higher. So one impact of climate change is higher temperature. Second impact. Please do this correction. The decade 2010 to 20 was the hottest in the Earth's history. That is true, but the hottest 10 years is 2011 to 2020. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. The hottest 10 years की बात करोगे, it is these 10 years. Remember, so when you are asked about hottest decade, it will be these 10 years, 2011 to 20. Till last year, that could have been the case, but abhi this is. Okay, now go to heating up of the ocean. Second, temperatures are in general rising. Second impact of climate change is heating up of the ocean. Ocean का temperature बढ़ रहा है. Because why would that be happening? 93% of the excess solar energy that is trapped by greenhouse gases gets into the ocean. You would ask, sir, why the hell would 93% heat go into the ocean? Extra heat. Because A large part of Earth is covered by ocean, and ocean mein heat can go till much lower region when compared to land where heat is concentrated on the top surface only. तो ग्रीन हाउस गैस की वजह से द हीट दैट इज बीइंग ट्रैप्ड, एक्स्ट्रा हीट दैट इज बीइंग ट्रैप्ड इज मोस्टली बीइंग अब्सॉर्ब्ड बाय oceans, world ocean. In fact, this was said by IPCC in its fifth assessment report. 2014 में fifth assessment report आया था. I told you in yesterday's class that in sixth assessment report would be coming in 2022. IPCC's sixth assessment report would be coming in 2022. This was the fifth assessment report where they said that most of the heat is absorbed by oceans. Now an interesting thing came. IPCC said that later University of Princeton in a study is saying that your assumption of how much heating of ocean was taking place was less. It is 60% higher. So later research by Princeton University says that heating of ocean is much larger than what IPCC had suggested. So because of all this, marine heat waves are increasing, ocean temperature, marine heat waves are increasing, and there's a surge in ocean temperature. And some experts say that to measure climate change, ocean temperature is a better indicator rather than air temperature around you that you measure. It is ocean temperature that should be measured to measure climate. Why? If most of the heat is absorbed by ocean, so how much extra heat is produced? How would you measure it? You'd measure it by measuring the change in heat level of the ocean, change in temperature of the ocean, right? So this is an important aspect here. Now, other thing that is happening is melting of glaciers. We're talking about impact of climate change. हमने बोला temperature बढ़ रहा है. Air temperature is going up. Temperature around us is going up. This last decade was the hottest decade. Last 5 years were the hottest 5 years. 2020 was the 8th most hottest year, but 2016 was the hottest year. तो सब कुछ hot हमारे around ही हो रहा है. Then we said sea temperature is rising, and sea temperature is a better measure of global warming. Third, we are saying glaciers in Himalayas, glaciers in North Pole, South Pole, all other places, glaciers are melting. Melting of glaciers, more water in the river, eventually more water into the oceans, and rise of ocean. So glaciers are melting, it is leading to rise of sea levels, which is leading to submergence of coast and small islands. June 2020 में there was a report by NCPOR. NCPOR is a body under Ministry of Earth Science. It said that in July 2019, the Arctic ice saw its largest decline in 41 years. That is, in last 40 years, 1979 to 2018, Arctic ice was declining by 4.7% every decade. एक decade में 4.7% decline होता था, but in July 2019, it saw a decline of 13%. See the difference, how much extra melting took place. According to NCPOR, if this trend is going to continue, then by 2050, there would be no ice left in Arctic. वहां पे जाके खेती करनी पड़ेगी. Okay, तो NCPOR is National Center for Polar and Ocean Research. ये Ministry of Earth Science के अंदर एक body है. Then there are other studies also. We do not have to remember all these studies. I'm giving you all these studies from different places on Earth to make you understand that it's happening every year. There was other study which in July 2019 was published in Science, which says that Alaskan glaciers are melting 100 times faster than what was previously. You know about Alaska? Alaska is one of the states of United States जो mainland से separated है. It is Canada के बगल में जो है, रशिया के इस तरफ, बेरिंग स्ट्रेट के बगल में ना. बेरिंग स्ट्रेट अलास्का और रशिया को सेपरेट करता है. Am I right? Okay, I'm a bit weak in geography. I'm sorry. Then recently, researchers have noted that sea level rise is a well accepted consequence of climate. So far, lot of people argue, जैसे Trump says that there's no climate change. He had even withdrawn US from Paris Agreement. By the way, US have joined Paris Agreement in February. So there are people like those who say that there's no climate change, there is no sea level rise. But recently scientists have said that researchers have noted that sea level rise is a well accepted consequence of climate change. This study shows that globally, of the 68% areas that are prone to coastal flooding, over 32% can be attributed to regional level. So sea level rise is a well accepted phenomena. Okay, Suma has asked, sir, what is long period average? बेटा देखो, suppose you're asked about what happened, इंडिया में मानसून ज्यादा है या कम है when compared to previous periods. So when compared to previous year, so that would not be the right measurement कि rainfall ज्यादा है या कम है when compared to last year's rainfall. Right measurement would be last year's rainfall may be very high or may be very low. तो उसके comparison में we may be doing very well. So we have to measure rainfall this year in terms of what has been the long term average. Last 30 years में what has been the average rainfall, when compared to that this year, whether we are in surplus or whether we are in deficit. Okay, so I hope आपको समझ में आई होगी बात. अच्छा, आपको दिखना बंद हो गया क्या? Now, three consequences that we have seen so far: rising temperature. Second was one is rising temperature. Second was rising ocean temperature. Third is melting of glaciers and thus sea level rise and thus submergence of coastal areas, islands, etc. Then increasing vulnerability in weather pattern. Weather pattern is becoming more and more variable. कभी बहुत ज्यादा बारिश होती है, कभी बारिश नहीं होती. Like till 2018-19, situation was this, that India's monsoon was in perpetual deficit. यहाँ पे we're talking about that. Between 2001 to 2018, we had 13 deficit monsoon. So this variability is leading to a lot of problems. In fact, there were only 5 years, 2013, 2011, 2010, 7 and 3, where good rainfall took place. Okay, then what are the factors which may be impacting this rainfall variability? They say that heating up of or formation of a number of warm pool in the Indo-Pacific is impacting the monsoon rains. How? Why? Because unnecessary warm pool ban rahe honge to low pressure and all those things changes the way monsoon winds move, and thus it negatively hampers or it makes the rainfall unpredictable, variable. Then seawater is also becoming acidic. Yesterday I was talking CO2 ज़्यादा होगा air में. If more CO2 is dissolved in water, then carbonic acid बनेगा. That is one thing. Then because of pollution and all, because of nitrous oxide and all, nitric acid or sulfuric acid is getting added more into the ocean. That amount is not that high. Overall acidification of ocean would increase mostly because of more CO2 in the atmosphere. So that is another consequence of climate change. Then thawing of permafrost and the Arctic lakes, bubbling of methane. इसे ऐसे समझते हैं. See, the North Pole of Earth. Let's say this is the North Pole here. You know that it is in permanent frozen situation. South Pole maybe temperatures are very high and there's a lot of ice there, there's a lot of snow there, जो permanently frozen रहते हैं. These are permafrost regions. So let me go to a land area of North Pole. Here, not only there's ice on the top surface, there is like this region remains in what is known as permafrost condition. Permafrost condition. In summers, there would be some melting and some vegetation may be growing. नॉट एग्जैक्टली एट द नॉर्थ पोल बट थोड़ा नीचे आके, और नॉट एग्जैक्टली एट द साउथ पोल बट थोड़ा नीचे आके सम वेजिटेशन मे बी ग्रोइंग. अच्छा, ये इंसान क्यों बना दिया मैंने? सम वेजिटेशन may be growing, but this vegetation then dies and gets sedimented in this permafrost. Now this permafrost is so cold that decomposition does not take place. Normal vegetation is there, decomposition may not be taking that fast, that quickly. अगर आप पे एक पेड़, if you destroy some vegetation on land in Delhi, you would see that in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years that would be gone. It would be decomposed, it would be destroyed. It doesn't happen here. यहाँ पे it will get sedimented in this zone, in this permafrost zone. Over the years, it would get decomposed slowly and slowly. Now, when decomposition takes place, methane is produced. Carbon dioxide is produced and methane is produced. Okay. So, in a way, by not letting the vegetation get decomposed, this vegetation was formed by taking CO2 from the atmosphere, and by not letting it decompose as quickly and by capturing it inside, the North Pole or South Pole, the kind of, or Arctic region is kind of acting as a carbon sink. It has stored carbon for us. It is carbon sink for us. ये बात समझ में आ गई? But with climate change, what is happening? Thawing or melting of this permafrost. When thawing or melting of this permafrost region is taking place, CO2 and methane, mostly methane, is getting released in the. So you'll be surprised to know that you'll be surprised to see some videos where there is ice all around and you would see methane gas bubbling out or fire coming out from there. कई बार ऐसे, like the Hindi news channels, they dramatize it like anything. लगी समंदर में आग, something like that. They do this. So what is actually happening is methane, which is highly inflammable. When we were talking about landfills, we gave that example. It's because of the production of methane, the dousing off of the landfill fire becomes difficult. In the same way, methane gets released, methane gets bubbled out. Now understand the consequence of this. When methane is bubbling out, suppose aag lag gayi, so it will convert into CO2 and all. But even if it's bubbling out, methane is a greenhouse gas. So because of global warming, methane is coming out, and methane will cause more global warming. More methane comes out, more global warming, more melting, and the cycle continues. Right now, the Arctic region is a sink for us. But if global warming keeps taking place, it may become a source of greenhouse. Did you all understand it? Clearly समझ में आया क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे? Okay. So this is thawing of permafrost. Permafrost is thawing, and Arctic lakes bubbling methane. Arctic lakes से methane is coming out. So here we are saying that presently Arctic is a net carbon sink, but it could become a carbon source if things continue like this, and reverting it would be difficult. So not only is global warming, the extra carbon dioxide that we are producing is leading to global warming, but it is also leading to more greenhouse gases being released. It's something like पैसे को पैसा खींचता है. CO2, more greenhouse gases being released, more problem. हाँ, bad joke I know. ऐसे expressions मत दो. Biodiversity loss. We already have explained this. See, the living organisms living in water are very sensitive to temperature change. Bleaching of corals. Corals we haven't covered yet. I'll cover it. Don't worry. Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll again take an extra class. Okay. परेशान मत हो. पढ़ लो थोड़ा सा. Tomorrow again we'll take an extra class, and एक और climate change का booklet आएगा. The final last booklet on environment, biodiversity and climate change before September 10. September 10 को फिर जो in this period the updates that would be taking place will cover that, but tomorrow we'll provide you the last booklet on climate change. So after that, jo pending thing of what is the topic, coral reef and all, will cover that. Okay, so coral reefs get destroyed, biodiversity loss takes place there. Then there are living organisms. For example, you would see that in Baltic Sea there are seals which which prefer to live in icy water or icy situation. Because of melting of Baltic Sea, seals population of seal pups have gone down. So all these things, remember that one of the consequences of climate change would be biodiversity loss. Then another is negative impact on food security in agriculture. Climate change would lead to negative impact on food security in agriculture. वो है variability in rainfall. One, variability in rainfall will impact agriculture, will impact food security. Second, increased temperature and evaporation of water sources. So drying up, drought wala situation. Then increased chances of locust attack. This also we had seen that climate change की वजह से कहीं पे desert में बारिश हो रही है, more locust coming in and increased chances of locust attack is there. अंकित दहिया इज सेइंग सर टेस्ट अपलोड करवा दो, अभी बीच में टेस्ट अपलोड करवा दूं मैं क्लास के बीच में. Negative impact on food security and management. Then these were impacts. Climate change has become a major emergency, you know that. But countries, जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना कि डिजास्टर आ गया, एक इमरजेंसी सिचुएशन आ गया. Countries so far had not said, okay, climate change is a major emergency, we need to focus. They had not officially, their parliament had not officially declared this. In 2019, it started changing. Pehle, let's understand the meaning of climate emergency as per Oxford's definition. Oxford says, the Oxford dictionary says that a situation in which urgent action is required to reduce or halt climate change and avoid potentially irreversible environmental damage resulting from it is climate. Now, you would say, first in November 2019, 11,258 scientists from 153 different countries came together to warn that planet clearly and unequivocally is facing climate emergency. This was the first time that such a large group of scientists came together and have formally said that climate change is an emergency. Till now, climate change is there, it's becoming a cause of concern, but it was an emergency was said for the first time by such large group of scientists in November 2019. Before that, European Union became the first multilateral bloc to declare climate emergency. Similarly, in May 2019, UK became the first national government to declare a climate emergency. First national government. Please note, इनके अंडर स्कॉटलैंड वेल्स थे, उन्होंने पहले भी डिक्लेयर किया था. Then in 2019 only, New York became the world's largest city to declare climate emergency in June. So climate emergency, that is, it's a situation which needs urgent action, is being declared by a number of countries, multilateral blocs, cities, and so on. So one of the impacts of climate change has been that it has become so worse that it now needs urgent. Okay. So what action needed? What is being done? Now we would discuss that. So see, it was in 1980s when for the first time, this happened that global community agreed, yes, climate change जैसी कोई problem हो रही है. 1980s में हुआ. In 1992, in the Earth Summit, when Convention on Biological Diversity was signed, at the same time, in the same summit, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change also came into play. It is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which has provided the broader framework for the world to fight climate change. It will be under UNFCCC that we would have a Kyoto Protocol, which would ask developed countries to reduce their emission. It is under UNFCCC we'll have a Paris Agreement, which is asking countries to prepare their national NDC, nationally determined contributions, and fight climate change. So what we are going to discuss now is the topic of climate change negotiation, where we'll be talking about UNFCCC, we'll be talking about Kyoto Protocol, we'll be talking about Paris Agreement, and then we'll be talking about what is happening after Paris Agreement. There's a UNFCCC ka conference of parties happening every year. So what is happening in there? Okay, so we'll go to these things one by one, but have a rough timeline in your mind. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was signed in 1992. It came into force in 1994. It will come into force in 1994. Now, when it will come into force, after it is ratified by enough number of countries, then it will come into force. From 1995, we would have what is known as Conference of Parties. COP1 will take in 90. Conference of Parties to UNFCCC. It will be in 1997. यहाँ पे COP3 हो जाएगा, where Kyoto Protocol would be finalized. I'm just giving you timeline into what had happened. But Kyoto Protocol did not come into force because enough number of ratification were not there for almost 10 years. Kyoto Protocol का first phase, I think maybe exact date देखते हैं कि it will be finally ratified and come into force in 2005, and first phase of Kyoto Protocol was applicable from 2008 to 2012, where developed countries were asked to reduce their CO2 emissions. Second phase was supposed to be applicable from 2012 to 2020. Second phase was supposed to be applicable from 2012 to 2020, but it could never come into force because it was not ratified by enough number of countries. Still, some developed countries voluntarily had started implementing Kyoto Protocol phase 2, but Kyoto Protocol never came into force. So Kyoto Protocol basically covered period till 2020. Right? What would happen to fighting climate change? What would happen to the fight against climate change after 2020? This was a major concern right from 2012 when Kyoto Protocol was, second phase of Kyoto Protocol came into play. So for that, in 2015, under UNFCCC ka us time COP21 would be there. Remember, 1995 में अगर COP1 है, in 2015 will reach COP21. In COP21, Paris Agreement would be signed. So we'll cover all these things in detail, but you should have a timeline. दिमाग में कि हुआ क्या है major event. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change 1992 comes into force in 1994. First Conference of Parties takes in 1995. Kyoto Protocol 97 में starts getting implemented from 2008. 2008 to 12 first phase, 2012 to 20 second phase. Then what would happen after 2020? उसके लिए we came up with, for that we came up with Paris Agreement in COP21. Then see, in 2015 we had this Paris Agreement or COP21, right? So in 2020 we should have what? COP26. We should have had COP26, but because of COVID-19, COP26 was not held. So now COP26 is going to be held in October in 2021. तो डेट्स में भी कंफ्यूजन नहीं होना है कि सर ने तो ऐसे कैलकुलेट किया था, फर्स्ट सीओपी वाज इन 1995, 21st COP was in 2015 where Paris Agreement came into play. So what happened? One of the COPs in one particular year COP could not be held, and thus dates में थोड़े से changes हो जाएंगे. Okay, so this COP would be in 19 would be held in 2021. Now you would ask, sir, Paris Agreement तो हो गया ना, which is saying how we will fight climate change. What the hell is happening in meetings after that? Paris Agreement में we have developed a framework on how climate change would be fought, but there are lots of details. Those have not been covered. Those are not complete yet. For that, negotiations do keep happening. All these things are there in your notes. But first I wanted a timeline. एक हिस्ट्री टीचर हूं ना, तो थोड़ा सा आई वांट कि एक पिक्चर रहना चाहिए दिमाग में कि क्या हो रहा है. फाइन. So if someone asks you today कि क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल कब आया, क्या है, you should be able to answer it. Now let's go back to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. The three major conventions were signed in the 1992 Earth Summit. This summit was also called UN Conference on Environment and Development. Rio Earth Summit. This summit was also called, its official name was UN Conference on Environment and Development. Earth Summit, like Earth ke liye summit. So here, Convention on Biological Diversity, we have already studied it. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, we are studying it. And United Nations Convention on to combat desertification, we'll study it tomorrow. In climate change, only temperature rise is not there. In climate change, ozone layer depletion is one of the topic that we'll study tomorrow. Desertification is another topic that also we need to study. Ocean acidification is another topic. All these things are component of climate change. But the most important is this, and that's why we are dealing with this topic here. Okay. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This was the first legal instrument on climate change globally. It would come into force in 1994. What is the aim of this convention? Aim of this convention was to stabilize greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases are rising, we have seen that. Aim was stabilize it so that temperature doesn't keep. But how was it to stabilize greenhouse gases? Was it asking every country, you stop increase in greenhouse gases from your country, or you only emit that much of greenhouse gas which can be absorbed by nature? Do not increase the level of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Did it say something like this? This convention was non-binding. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was non-binding. It just said that we should take efforts towards reducing greenhouse gas emission. But if no one was taking any efforts, was there any action taken? No. There was nothing like that. But still, it was a significant convention because at least it recognized the problem. This convention had universal acceptance, almost universal acceptance. Implement nahi hua, wo alag hai, but this convention was the first thing. All UN member states, Palestine, New and Cook Island, and European Union were party to this convention. Under this convention, countries were divided into Annex 1, Annex 2, Non-Annex 1, and least developed countries. Annex 1 mein, we had advanced economies, OECD countries, and emerging economies in transition, which were transiting from developing to developed, and in Annex 2, we had Annex 1 mein se hi only the advanced one, OECD countries. Here, economy in transition were not included. In Annex 2, Annex 1 ke advanced economies, OECD countries were there. And it was these Annex 2, that is advanced economies, who were not only to work towards fighting climate change, but also provide financial and technical support to economies in transition and developing countries for mitigating climate. बात समझ में आई? तो Annex 1 of UNFCCC में कौन सी countries हैं? Annex 2 में कौन सी countries हैं? Annex 2 is the main list here, because whenever you will read newspaper or anything related to UNFCCC and if they say Annex 2 countries, you should understand these are advanced industrial economies. These are advanced industrial economies who were expected under UNFCCC to provide funds, to provide technology to economies in transition as well as to developing. Got it? बात समझ में आ गई है? Okay. Then there were non-Annex 1 countries, countries which are not in Annex 1. So it cannot be developed countries, it cannot be economies in transition. These would be mostly developing countries, like India would be in a non-Annex 1. And then there were some least developed. So it is the Annex 2 of UNFCCC that you should be very clear about. These were the countries which were developed economies. Some of these countries are also part of Annex 1. Sorry, all these countries are also part of Annex 1. But in Annex 1, there are some other countries as well. Economies in transition are also there. These were the countries which were supposed to provide financial and technical support to EITs and developing countries to fight climate change, to mitigate. Fine? Now, what was the significance of UNFCCC? Recognition of the problem. इससे पहले globally, there is global warming and we need to work together for it. It was not even recognized. It recognized the problem. It set a target of stabilizing GHG, greenhouse gas. It's a very ambitious target. Even 30 years back, expecting that countries would reduce their CO2 emission, when they're not ready to do it right now, was an ambitious target. Onus was put on developed countries, that you not only reduce your CO2 but also provide technology and funds to developing countries to help them fight climate change. Funds and technology transfer to developing countries, regular reporting, keep a tap on the problem. But what if developed countries were not working? Doesn't matter. Were they given specific target that you reduce your CO2 by 10%, you reduce your CO2 by 5%, you reduce your CO2 by 20%? Those kind of specific targets were not there. The aim was stabilizing greenhouse gases, but which country would do what, how much would be done? Those things were not there. So thus any binding commitment was not there. So came Kyoto Protocol with binding commitment. Kyoto Protocol, under United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, we have Kyoto Protocol. It's an international agreement to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, it was signed in Kyoto, came into force in 2005, and its first commitment period was 2008 to 12. हमने समझ लिया already. Under this, there were countries called Annex B countries, which were mostly advanced countries, and they were given targets. Annex B countries कौन सी हैं? These are mostly the countries which were there in Annex 1 there. These are the countries, the industrialized advanced economies. And they were given specific set target that USA, you reduce it by this much, UK, you reduce it by this much, Germany, you reduce it by this much, France, you reduce it by this much. They were given specific target. And if they were not fulfilling those targets, then there was a provision for penalty as well, which was not there in UNFCCC. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change did not have these provisions of penalty and specific targets. It was there in Kyoto Protocol. Now, why would it be so? Binding emission targets were there only for 38 industrialized countries which were part of Annex B. 38 industrialized countries were part of Annex B. Why? CO2 emission to India bhi kar raha hai. Because if we look at historic data, If you look at historic data, you would see that 28 countries of European Union, it included UK as well, by Abhi not part of European Union, but 28 countries of European Union, industrialized countries of Europe, have produced most of the global sea. So when it comes to reduction and efforts towards fighting it, should European countries or the advanced industrial economies not be contributing? Yes. Then United States, our contribution is huge. China's contribution is also going up. Russia, Japan, India. India's contribution is so less. Why force India to emit, to reduce their CO2 emission? When contribution of CO2 is less, it also means that this country has not been able to reap the benefit of industrialization yet. So when you enforce limiting CO2 on them, their industrialization may suffer because they're not still industrialized economies. And therefore, following the principle of common but differentiated risk, only developed countries were given targets of reduction. What is common but differentiated responsibility? Fighting climate change is a common responsibility. Sabki responsibility hai, because everyone would be impacted by it. But who would contribute how much? That is different, differentiate. Developed countries who are responsible for the problem more would contribute more. Developing countries which are responsible for the problem less would contribute. So Kyoto Protocol followed what is known as common but differentiated responsibility, where countries were given the Annex B in जैसे वहाँ पे in the UNFCCC, in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. In the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, what was there? The Annex 2 countries were there, industrialized countries. Annex 1 mein we had industrialized as well as economies in transition. Annex 2 countries were there. In the same way, here we have Annex B countries. Annex B countries, 38 countries were given binding responsibility of CO2 reduction. आप सबको इतना इतना CO2 reduce करना है. Other than this, there were also the Kyoto Protocol also provided for flexible architecture of market-based mechanisms. Other than the national measures, you have to reduce your CO2 emission. So other than the efforts that you can take at your own in your own country, you also had market-based mechanisms. Market-based. Now, what are these market-based? What were these market-based mechanisms? There were 3 market-based mechanisms available. Let's say Switzerland or let's say Germany. Germany has to reduce their CO2 emission. So one, they can reduce the CO2 emission within their own country. There, but other than that, there were market-based mechanisms. Under this, there were 3 components. One was carbon credit. Other was clean development mechanism, and third was joint implementation. So, because Kyoto Protocol is no more in force, I have removed the detailed explanation of these things, but still I'll explain you so that when in Paris Agreement we are talking about these terms, carbon trading and all, you should be able to understand those terms. So carbon trading, clean development mechanism and joint implementation, let's understand. Carbon trading, clean development mechanism and joint implementation. Right. Now let's say there's a country called Germany. There's another country called, let's say, Norway. Both of them have been given the responsibility of reducing their CO2 emission. Now, first carbon trading wale mechanism mein jaate hain. What is this market-based mechanism? Here, Germany can reduce its CO2 emission at its own. Let's say Germany's CO2 emission is 100 units right now, and it is asked, bhai, you reduce it to 80 units. You reduce it by this much, by 20 जैसे इतना रिडक्शन किसी को बोला नहीं गया था, जस्ट फॉर एक्सप्लेनेशन पर्पस यू रिड्यूस इट बाय 20 units. But Germany was not able to reduce it by 20 units. Germany emitted this much extra carbon. Germany emitted this much extra carbon. It was only able to reduce 10%, let's say, just for the sake of explanation. So Germany was emitting this much extra carbon than what was allowed to Germany under Kyoto Protocol. Let's say there's another country, Norway, which also had to reduce 100 units of, which also was emitting 100 units of CO2, but it was asked to reduce its CO2 emission to 80%, but it reduced it by to 70%. It reduced it to 70%. So basically, this was its target. This was its target, 20% reduction, but it reduced another 10%. It reduced another. This was its target, it reduced another 10%. This was the extra thing that it reduced. ये बात समझ में आई? So this extra carbon is carbon credit that it has earned. This extra carbon emission that it has reduced is the carbon credit that it has earned. And it can sell this carbon credit to a country which wants to reach its target and has not been able to reach. This is Germany. Germany can pay some money to Norway and buy carbon credit for themselves. In this way, Germany would also meet its target. The idea is overall हमें CO2 पूरी दुनिया में reduce करना है. If by this procedure Germany can easily reduce it in help in reduction in Norway, that's okay. बात समझ में आई? What is carbon credit? What is carbon trading? Did you understand what is carbon trading? Here, this trading would occur. So this is a market-based mechanism. Why market-based mechanism? Rather than doing it within your home, you're doing it outside. You're buying it from someone else. It's something like, let's say, you have to start a solar power plant, or let's say something. Let's take some other example. You want to grow lychee and sell it in Rajasthan. You want to grow lychee in Rajasthan and sell it in Rajasthan. Now, the cost of growing lychee in Rajasthan is 100 rupees per kg. But cost of growing lychee in Bihar is 40 rupees per kg. And transportation cost is 10 rupees per kg. What would you do? You would prefer a mechanism where you are growing lychee in Bihar and transporting it here. This is a market-based mechanism. So sometimes reducing your own CO2 could be more expensive rather than buying credit from someone else. So you have been provided flexibility. Your overall aim is reduction in CO2. Did you understand what is this carbon credit mechanism? There was another mechanism called Clean Development Mechanism, CDM. See, till the time Kyoto Protocol was in force, till 2019, I used to teach it in detail. It used to be there. Each of these provisions, what is carbon trading, carbon credit, what is clean development mechanism, what is joint implementation, all those things used to be in notes. Right now, I've just provided the keywords because Kyoto Protocol is no more in force. Chances that this would be asked is slightly, because under Paris Agreement, the market mechanisms have been provided for, but clarity is not there how the market would work. In Kyoto Protocol, there was clarity. Then second comes CDM, Clean Development Mechanism. In flexible wale approach mein, second approach is of Clean Development Mechanism. Now, what is this Clean Development Mechanism? Now consider this situation. Suppose you want to start, संजय जी क्लास खत्म होने का टाइम है, अब आप लाए हो मेरे, थैंक यू. Clean Development Mechanism. let's say a country, again Germany, it has to start some solar power plant. Let's say it wants to establish some solar power plants so that CO2 emission could reduce. And for that it will first find land. But finding land in Germany would maybe expensive. What if they're able to get land easily in the Sahara Desert at a much cheaper rate? They can establish solar power plants there. Those solar power plants may supply electricity to people in Africa only, but then people in Africa would be using less thermal power plant wala electricity. CO2 emission has reduced. That was the purpose. So that reduction in CO2 emission would be counted in the reduction by Germany. That reduction would be counted by Germany when Germany implements a project in a developing country to reduce CO2. This is clean development. Did you understand this? Pakka? What is clean development mechanism? Germany's project led to reduction in CO2 in some developing country. That reduction in CO2 would be calculated in Germany's reduction. Then comes joint implementation. What is joint implementation? Germany, rather than doing it in Africa, if let's say US is a big country, it has a lot of desert region. If Germany would have done it in a developed country, rather than developing country, it would have done it in developed country. It would have come under joint implementation. Two developed countries coming together and launching a project for CO2 emission reduction. It would have been called joint implementation. So these are market-based mechanism to reduce CO2 emission. So there was, under Kyoto Protocol, there were national measures available. Under Kyoto Protocol, there were national measures available, but there were also market-based mechanism available. There were three components of market-based mechanism: carbon trading, clean development mechanism, and joint implementation. You could use any measures to reduce your CO2 emissions. Okay, then if you are not meeting your target, there were provision for penalties as well. Unlike United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, unlike UNFCCC, where there was no punishment, no penalties, here under Kyoto Protocol there were provisions for penalties also if you were not reaching your target, if you are not meeting your target. What is the status of Kyoto Protocol? It was ratified by 191 countries and EU. Canada withdrew from the protocol in 2012. US was the only country which signed the protocol but never ratified. US signed the protocol but did not ratify. देखो US में ना जब रिपब्लिकन गवर्नमेंट आ जाती है, Trump was from Republican Party, they generally support the idea of climate change. They basically, even they may be knowing कि climate change हो रहा है and all, but they are group of upper class, like their supporters are upper class industrialists, oil lobbyists. So for them, climate change and वो हमारे development को रोक रहा है. So they generally make US go away from these commitments. But when Democrats come, say Obama was a Democrat, was from Democratic Party. So in 2016, they signed Paris Agreement. But when in 2015, they signed Paris Agreement. But in 2016, when Trump Baba became president, he withdrew US from Paris Agreement. Then again, now who is the president of USA? Please bolo. Joe Biden. He's a Democrat. He's from the Democratic Party. He has made US join it again. So here also US had signed Kyoto Protocol, but it never ratified it. You can understand the reason. 1999 से, I think For 8 years or so, the George W. Bush was the president who comes from the Republican Party. Till 2009 he was the president. He comes from the Republican Party. उससे पहले बिल क्लिंटन था, तो साइन करते टाइम Bill Clinton was from the Democratic Party. Was he from Democratic Party? Most probably he must be. I do not recall the exact politics of the USA, but he was from Democratic. Okay, so US was one country which signed the protocol but never ratified it. Now, were targets met? जो इनको टारगेट दिए गए थे 2008 से 12 के बीच में फर्स्ट फेज में फॉर डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज, ऑफ कोर्स नॉट. लाइक कंट्रीज रिड्यूसिंग देयर CO2 is a big challenge. Countries are increasing it. They are using more and more energy, so they are increasing it. Most countries did not meet the target for emission reduction assigned for the first commitment period. So protocol's impact was slow. What happened after 2012, after the first commitment period? At Doha in 2012, they made amendments to Kyoto Protocol to make it applicable from 2012 to 20 also. But this amendment was not ratified by enough number of countries and it never entered into. The second phase of Kyoto Protocol never entered into force. They never entered into force. But some developed countries, using the opt-in provisions, voluntarily started implementing. India ratified this convention in 2017. Even India was not like very much interested. 2012 से 20 में it was supposed to be implemented only by developed countries. The reduction was only by developed countries, but India also knew that फालतू चीज है, कुछ हो तो रहा नहीं. So India had ratified Kyoto Protocol का second phase in 2007. Okay, so now there's a question. Upamanyu is asking, sir, are these targets given to countries by Kyoto authorities, or are they given in the national legislation in the respective countries via national legislation? नहीं, these were not given via national legislation. Kyoto protocols के जो targets थे, it was part of Kyoto agreement, Kyoto Protocol agreement. It was not like Germany did not decide कि they have to reduce this much of. It was part of their. How much would you reduce decided by yourself is NDC, which is part of Paris Agreement, nationally determined contribution. Okay, so this was Kyoto Protocol. Now we'll study Paris Agreement. But before I get into Paris Agreement, any doubts, any questions, please ask it. कुछ भी पूछना है आप लोगों को? No raised hands, nothing. भवानी ने लिखा है खरबूजे को देखकर खरबूजा रंग बदलता है. आई थिंक वो CO2 से मोर CO2 मीथेन एमिट हो रहा है. ओके फाइन, नो डाउट्स दैट विल गो टू पेरिस एग्रीमेंट. So the context of Paris Agreement is understood. We have to fight climate change. Kyoto Protocol's first phase was mostly unsuccessful. 2008 to 12, a lot of reduction was not there. Kyoto Protocol's second phase never came into force. So based on these learning, at every COP, at every conference of parties of UNFCCC, there were discussions on what should be done. We have to fight climate change. Climate change is emergency. It's now an emergency. Finally, in December 2015, in COP21, in fact, do you know, COP21 so far is considered the biggest gathering of national leaders from all over the world. It was so significant. In COP21 of UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, Paris Agreement is now providing the framework on how the global community will be fighting climate change, will be mitigating climate change. So what is Paris Agreement saying? First, it has set some long-term targets. What is the target of Paris Agreement? First target is we have to limit global temperature below 2 degrees Celsius. Beyond of what was the temperature in the pre-industrial era. We already know, as per the IPCC report, our temperature is already 1.2 degrees Celsius higher than the pre-industrial era. So in a way, Paris Agreement is saying that उससे अब 0.8 डिग्री सेल्सियस और नहीं बढ़ने दी. 2 डिग्री सेल्सियस राइस का मतलब 1.2 डिग्री सेल्सियस राइस इज ऑलरेडी देयर, तो 0.8 डिग्री सेल्सियस और नहीं बढ़ेगा. This is what Paris Agreement is saying. This is the target, but it has also urged countries to take efforts to ensure that temperature does not go beyond 1.5 degrees. 2 degrees is the target, but effort should be made to ensure that temperature does not increase beyond 1.5. बात समझ में आ गई? The core target of UNFCCC. Now you must have a question, sir. Why 2 degrees? Why not 3 degrees? Why not 4 degrees? Target of 2 degree or 1.5 degree क्यों किया गया है? Because experts feel through various studies they have realized that a temperature rise beyond 2 degrees Celsius will be irreversible. The impact of it would be irreversible. A melting of glaciers and all those things would lead to so much changes that it would be uncontrollable. We have to ensure the temperature does not go beyond 2 degrees. Okay, then to achieve this, there are long-term emission goals. One is countries should work together to ensure that emission peaks as soon as possible. We know that CO2 emissions are rising. CO2 emissions are rising. 410 ppm, 415 ppm पे पहुंच गए. They are saying that the CO2 emission, let it peak as soon as possible. As soon as possible, let it go to peak, and after that, reduction should happen. Basically, they are saying that as soon as possible, you start reducing CO2 emission. ये नहीं बोल रहे कि as soon as possible peak पे चले जाओ. As soon as possible, you start reducing. उसके लिए your peak should be reached as soon as possible. Peaking of emission as soon as possible, and then goal of net greenhouse gas neutrality in the second half of the century. तो 2050 से 2100 के बीच में achieve net greenhouse neutrality. What is net greenhouse neutrality? The amount of greenhouse that you are emitting, same amount of greenhouse the nature should be able to absorb. So overall there is neutrality. No extra greenhouse is being added. No extra greenhouse is being. We should be able to reach that situation between 2050 and 2100. Between the year 2050 and 21. Fine? ये वाली बात भी समझ में आ गई सबको? Now, goals of targets of Paris Agreement is clear. Not letting temperature go beyond 2 degrees Celsius, urging efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That is one target. Second is peaking of CO2 emission as soon as possible and achieving net greenhouse gas neutrality between 2050 and 2100. Second, second thing that you would clearly note is that it has ended the differentiation between developed and developing countries. Under UNFCCC, under Kyoto Protocol, there were the principle of common but differentiated responsibility was followed, where developed countries, under Kyoto Protocol, developed countries were given binding targets. But here, everyone has been given responsibility. So strict differentiation. Even now, there are some differentiation between developed and developing countries, but strict differentiation between developed and developing countries have been done away. Now, the strict differentiation does not exist. Everyone, all countries are supposed to work together to put their best effort to fight climate change. Okay, now how would you fight climate change? Under Paris Agreement, how would you fight climate change? So under the Paris Agreement, they have introduced the concept of what is known as NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution. All the countries are responsible for fighting climate change. How would you fight climate change? How would a country contribute in fighting climate change? That will be determined by the country itself. So, nationally determined contribution, nation will determine its contribution to fight climate. Nation will determine its contribution to fight climate change. So, India has given certain commitments under Paris Agreement. We would do this, this, and this to fight climate change. Under Kyoto Protocol, Kyoto tried to give targets. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Countries could not implement it. No one implemented it. यहाँ पे option has been given to you. You determine how would you do it, how much will you be able to do it. So it's something like Indian schooling system versus American schooling system. इंडिया में हमें फोर्स किया जाता है ये पढ़ो ये पढ़ो ये पढ़ो, इंजीनियर बनो, डॉक्टर बनो, सरकारी नौकरी लो चाहे चपरासी वाली लो. नहीं, that's also a good job, but सरकारी लो. हमें प्रेशराइज किया जाता है और फिर हम कुछ नहीं करते. Right? Here, this happened in Kyoto Protocol. You would reduce your CO2 emission. Under Paris Agreement, you determine what will you do. जैसे यूएस में एक लिबरल फैमिली बोलेगी तुम 18 साल के हो गए हो, घर से निकलो, डिटरमाइन करो क्या करना है. राइट? यहां मैं 30 प्लस हो गया हूं, मेरे पिताजी ये कर रहा है, वो करना है, ये करना है, तुम्हें शादी कर लेनी चाहिए. मैंने कहा हाँ पापा आप सही बोल रहे हो. यहां पे फ्रीडम मिला है, आप डिटरमाइन करो कितना करना. बट whatever you commit, your next commitment should be better than this. So your next commitment should not be lower than this. The concept of NDC has been brought. बात समझ में आई NDC की? तो what are the things which are binding under this commitment? Members who have signed Paris Agreement, for them certain things are binding. What is binding? To prepare, communicate and maintain an NDC. Every country has to prepare. They have to communicate. They have to tell UNFCCC and maintain an NDC. This is our nationally determined contribution. Second, to provide information necessary for clarity and transparency. That is, it will keep informing UNFCCC. See, we are doing this, this, this. We have committed this, 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 and to achieve this, we are doing XYZ thing. So, to provide information necessary for clarity and transparency. To communicate a new NDC every 5 years. Every 5 years, you have to give a nationally determined contribution, a new nationally determined contribution. And this nationally determined contribution would be a progression beyond the previous one. It should also reflect that parties, that countries' highest possible ambition. कि वो अपना best effort डाल रहा है. वो country, that country is putting its best effort. Okay. These things are binding. But what is not binding? Implementation of NDC. Suppose India said, Germany says that we'll reduce our CO2 emission by 10%. And if Germany is not able to reduce it, under Kyoto, it was supposed to be penalized, fined. Under Paris Agreement, NDC is not binding on the country. The country may change it, country may implement less of it. Because developed countries were not ready. You are making it binding for us. We are putting our best effort to fight climate change, but if we fail in that, you cannot just penalize us. It's something like, if you don't clear civil services examination, तो आपसे और पैसे ले लिए जाएंगे. आपके पेरेंट्स बोलेंगे पैसे दो हम वापस. ऐसा नहीं होना है. This is what developed countries were saying. The penalization provision is gone. Now, the moment penalization provision is gone, does it remain binding? Not binding. If I'm not able to achieve the targets of my NDC, nothing is happening. Right? So, doesn't make implementation or achievement of NDC a binding obligation. But even now, there is some differentiation between developed and developed countries which remains. Strict differentiation has been done away with. Now, both developed and developing countries have to set targets and have to work towards achieving it. So, strict differentiation which was earlier, developing, don't worry. Developed, you worry, you reduce. That is done away with. But some differentiations are there. What differentiations are there? One, developed countries will take economy-wide reduction targets. Overall economic sectors mein it would take reduction targets. Whereas developing countries are encouraged to move towards economy-wide targets over time. Further, developed countries are also supposed to provide funds to developing countries, technology to developing countries for the implementation of their DC. Because it is developed countries which has industrialized because of emission of a lot of greenhouse gases. So there they have some extra responsibility. कि इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन से जो बेनिफिट्स मिले हैं, टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट से जो बेनिफिट्स मिले हैं, those benefits should be shared with developing countries also, because developing countries are also suffering because of their greenhouse gas emission. So some differentiation is there, but strict differentiation is done away. Fine? बात समझ में आ गई? Now, carbon markets. In Kyoto Protocol, we saw there was a market-based mechanism where we have carbon credits, we had CDM, we had joint implementation. 3 ways in which through market-based mechanism we could reduce our CO2 emission. Here also it says that market-based mechanism is there. Agreement has avoided direct reference to use of market-based approaches. It recognized that parties may use internationally transferred mitigation. Internationally transferred mitigation outcome could be implemented. A clarity on this has not been made. तो जो COP हो रहे हैं ना, उसमें कि what would be the market-based mechanism and all is something that is not finalized yet. But provision for internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. Look at the internationally transferred mitigation outcome. Climate change mitigation outcomes is allowed. Then there's a provision of stock take and successive NDCs. That is, every 5 years, there will be a global stock take under UNFCCC. Are these NDCs which all the countries have provided enough to fight climate change, enough to prevent reduction of CO2 emission beyond a particular temperature? And then there would be new NDCs every 5 years. Every 5 years, countries would give new NDC, which would be a progression over the previous NDCs. Then there is the issue of finance. Finance mein they have said that developed countries till 2025 every year would be contributing around $100 billion a year to fight climate change. This $100 billion target was made in 2012 itself, but was never achieved. Developed countries' contribution has been per year $100 billion is a huge amount. They haven't made it. So critics say that Paris Agreement keeping the target of $100 billion till 2025 is a underachievement, because first of all $100 billion का value जो 2012 में था वो नहीं रहा अब, and moreover the amount needed is much higher to fight climate change. This is minuscule. But supporters say that you have not been able to generate this much money every year. What is the point of increasing the target? First, let's achieve this much money. Okay, now, when did Paris Agreement come into force? The Paris Agreement was also not ratified by enough number of people? No. Within 1 year, 55 countries accounting for at least 55% of greenhouse gas emission had ratified it, and it came into force on November 4, 2016. It is applicable from 2022. से पहले Kyoto Protocol था, right? But it came into force on November 4, 2016. What has India promised? India's intended NDC क्या है? India's intended nationally determined contribution क्या है? India has said that it will reduce emission intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35%. Let's understand what is emission intensity of the GDP. India will reduce emission intensity of the GDP by 33 to 35. Does it mean that India will reduce its CO2 emission by 33 to 35%? India is saying that suppose today for 100 units of GDP, we are producing X units of CO2. Suppose for 100 units of GDP, we are producing X units of CO2. Then in future, our target is for 100 units of GDP, we should only produce 0.65 units of 0.65 X units of CO2. तो हमने 35% अपना GDP इंटेंसिटी emission intensity में reduction. So has India reduced its CO2 emission? No, because our GDP will not remain 100 units. Our GDP may become 300 units, or let's say 500 units. So for every 100 unit, we are emitting 0.65x. For 500 units, we may be emitting 325x. Here we were emitting x units. Here 3.25x. 3.25x. There we would be emitting 3.25x. But our GDP is more efficient now in terms of CO2 emission. Our CO2 emission would be, intensity would be lesser. Overall CO2 emission would not go down. Because India is a developing country, India says that we need to grow. We need to get industrialized. And thus CO2 emission would be high from us. And moreover, right now our level of CO2 use is emission is very less. हम आज से और कम हो जाएंगे तो बहुत खराब होगा. Developed countries are emitting, like per capita emission of US is 5 times that of India. Got it? So we have committed that we will reduce our CO2 emission intensity by 33 to 35%. We have also said that energy that we are getting from fossil fuels, it will be reduced to 60%. Non-fossil fuel sources will give us 40% of energy by 2030. By 2030, we'll reduce our emission intensity of our GDP by 33 to 35%. By 2030, non-fossil based energy sources would be providing 40% of our energy requirement, and by 2030, we'll also create a carbon sink of additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons. So what is carbon sink? A tree is a carbon sink. A tree, when it grows by photosynthesis, it's consuming CO2 and is storing it in the organic matter that it has in its body. It's storing it in the organic matter that it has in its body. So CO2 is a tree is a carbon sink. So India is saying that we'll create carbon sink worth 2.5 to 3 billion. These are our, बात समझ में आ गई है? Paris Agreement में how the countries all over the world are planning to fight climate change. So please note this thing, that USA had withdrawn from Paris Agreement in 2016 when Trump had become the president. USA in February 2021 rejoined Paris Agreement. USA has joined Paris Agreement again. Fine. Now, recently, Government of India, in November 2020, Government of India formed Apex Committee for the implementation of Paris Agreement. This is a committee which is headed by Secretary of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It has Vice Chairperson as Additional Secretary of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and this committee consists of 17 members. And what would it do? It will work towards achieving India's NDC, nationally determined contribution. So it will also communicate and report NDCs to UNFCCC. We know that UNFCCC को report करना, that is binding. Achieving NDC is not binding, but reporting to UNFCCC is binding. It will also define, this body will define responsibilities of government ministries in fighting climate change. Different ministries may be responsible, like even Ministry of Agriculture. How much of efficiency in water use are you promoting? That will reduce the amount of electricity being used and thus fight climate change. Ministry of Transport. So it will coordinate with all other ministries to do this. So for prelims, know that this Apex committee has been formed. Apex committee for the implementation of Paris Agreement has been formed, and this Apex committee is headed by Secretary of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Generally, test में क्या होता है? They say that this Apex committee is headed by Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It is headed by Secretary. Note that carefully. Okay, so in 2015, in COP21, we came up with Paris Agreement to fight climate change. We came up with Paris Agreement to fight climate change. Right? But Paris Agreement provided that XYZ things would happen. But it did not provide clarity on lots of things, like how the market-based mechanism, how the reporting would take place. Like a country can say that we have planted 1 lakh trees and created this much thing. How would that take? A lot of these needed to be clarified. So every year in the successive summits, these things have been discussed. COP21 took place in Marrakech, COP23 in Bonn, COP24 in Katowice, COP25 in Madrid in 2019. COP26, which was supposed to be held in December 2019, I'm sorry, please make this correction, which was supposed to be held in December. No, 2019 में तो वहाँ हो गया ना? Sorry, what am I saying? Sorry, I'm an idiot. November 2020. December 2020, which was supposed to be held in December 2020, has been now shifted to November 2021, which would be held in Glasgow. Okay. Now, what are the issues which are being discussed in these COPs, in these conferences? One is rule on how to measure the reported emissions, how to measure indices, and so on. This has been finalized. In Katowice, this was finalized, but this is one thing that we kept on discussing for 4-5 COPs even after the Paris Agreement. Then another thing that countries are discussing is making targets more ambitious. What is this issue of making targets more ambitious? Various studies have shown, even IPCC studies have shown, that current NDCs which member countries have given is not enough to reduce to ensure that temperature does not go beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius. We would need to contribute more here. Countries will need to come up with more ambitious NDCs. That is here. Then mechanism for financing and technology transfer still not there. When would developed countries start financing and start providing technology? That is one of the core thing in the agreement. Issue of market-based mechanism, how calculation would done and all those things are not done yet, are not final yet. And then issue of liability for damages caused by climate change. Like जो island countries hai, they are saying that we are the ones who would face a lot of damages because of climate change, which is mostly caused by developed countries. So should they not be liable to pay us? This is another issue that is still to be decided, that is still to be. So what is this issue of carbon market? Carbon market in case of Kyoto Protocol was very well provided for. है ना, कॉमन डेवलपमेंट मैकेनिज्म, जॉइंट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, कार्बन क्रेडिट्स, देयर वर so many things which provided for the carbon markets. What is the situation in Paris Agreement? So when we talk about Paris Agreement situation, you know the reasons for reasons or need of carbon market. It simplifies for a country. It simplifies the CO2 reduction. It reduces CO2 at a place where it is easiest to do. Aim is reduction of CO2 emission. So market-based mechanism provide a simpler way of that reduction. What is Paris Agreement saying about it? Under Article 6.2, Paris Agreement says bilateral arrangement for transfer of emission reduction would be allowed without double counting. Double counting matlab, like when Germany is implementing a project in USA, Germany is counting it in its own CO2 reduction, and US is also counting it in its own CO2 reduction. That should not happen. Article 6.8 provides for making non-market approaches available, but there is clarity not there ki what are the non-market approaches available. But why have we not been able to finally decide which market-based mechanism would be used? Because there's a lot of tension between developed and developing countries on the issue of double counting, transparency mechanism, and carbon credit earned in Kyoto regime. Now, this is the major reason, carbon credit earned in Kyoto regime. Now, in Kyoto regime, under Kyoto Protocol, were developing countries given target CO2 reduction targets? No, developing countries were not given CO2 reduction targets. But developing countries who reduce CO2, they got carbon credits. So countries like India, which took efforts to reduce CO2, उनको carbon credit मिलना था. If they started renewable energy projects to reduce CO2 emission, they earned what is known as carbon credit. And there are millions of certified emission reduction credits that they have, which are unsold. So what would happen to them? India says that they have 750 million unsold CERs. Let developed country buy those CERs. Developed countries are saying, let's start from. This is one major contention which is not leading to finalization of the market mechanism and carbon credit. Then there are other issues like how would you ensure transparency? ऐसे सोचो कि USA in the name of helping other country under some scheme program is leading to establishment of solar power panels or solar power there. तो वो किसी और agreement का part है, but USA is also counting it under Paris Agreement. Should that be allowed? तो ऐसे कुछ debates है, contentions हैं, which are creating problems, which are creating issues, because of which market-based system has not been finalized. Fine, ये वाली बात भी clear है? Okay. There are some other international efforts to fight climate change. चलिए अब कल करते हैं, बहुत हो गया. So guys, I'll see you tomorrow again at 8:30 only. Along with this, I'll also try to give another booklet, last booklet on climate change. उसमें ozone depletion, desertification, ये सारी चीजें होंगी. Your climate environment would be completed. उसके बाद from this Saturday, Sunday, we'll start polity governance. Not this Friday, but from next Friday, we would also start taking classes on updates on science and technology, updates on international bodies, and the pending things on economy. Our priority on Saturdays and Sundays would be polity and governance का current affairs, और जो हमने science, international economy कर लिया है, उस पे जो updates हैं, that would keep happening on Fridays. But these updates we'll do from next week, क्योंकि इस week already हम बहुत सारी classes, extra classes ले रहे हैं environment की. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.